So, VICE TV has been releasing a documentary on the NHRA called Chasing Speed. It airs every Wednesday on their TV channel at 9 o'clock, I think, and it goes up on their YouTube page the next morning, so like Thursday morning sometime. I've been watching it on YouTube. I have absolutely loved it. I know everybody said, hold your fire. It's for the newbies. It's not for the hardcore experienced fan. But I would have to disagree with that. I think this is also for the hardcore fans. There's been a few pieces of information in this that hardcore fans like myself have learned that was not public information before this aired. So I do think that this is also for the hardcore fans. It's definitely more geared towards, drawing new people into the sport and like here's what our sport has to offer. But it's also first of all, it's just very well done. Like as a docuseries, the story is pieced together well. The old interviews that they use in it perfectly match with whatever speaker that they have on screen talking and telling you about, whatever their story is. And, they're showing in the first episode, they mostly focused on the Force family and John's legacy. And so they showed a lot of old John Force footage, some of it that I hadn't seen before. So that was really cool to kind of get deeper into that history than I had previously. John Force's legacy will continue on long after any Force is on the track. The amount of innovation that John Force Racing has created, the amount of fan engagement that the JFR brand has built up over the last 50 years is crazy. So, even though we're not going to have a Force person in the pro categories this next year, I don't think that's a bad thing, and I don't think the sport is going to suffer because of that. I think and obviously it's not great to have no Force family drivers in the card, but they did change the X that they put on all the cars. They changed it to say Force family, which I really like that. I think that is very sweet and very sentimental and kind of fully encompasses that, because even though Ashley Force Hood hasn't driven in 10-15 years now, she's still working for John Force Racing. She's in there doing media stuff. She does the videography stuff. So, and Adria too, she's in, I don't remember what department she's in, but she's somewhere high ranking in JFR. So it's still a fully family operation, It's just no longer having one of them in the driver's seat, which makes sense. You gotta start a family at some point. If that's one of your life goals, you gotta do it at some point. So it makes sense. But I really liked the way that, so even though we all know that Austin Prock is no longer with JFR, and somebody online was saying that it made it weird, or that it made, I don't remember what the exact wording was, but that it didn't hit the same. And I think it hits harder. Everything that Austin was saying about John Force, and just the way he was speaking so highly of John Force and the racing team that he's built, over the last forever, that he was just trying to be very honoring and very respectful of, acknowledging that John Force has helped him out immensely in his career so far, and that, he wouldn't be where he is without John Force. And it was, even though we don't know if at the time of filming that Austin already knew that they were leaving, we don't know that. We have no idea of that. So it just seemed very genuine of, I am very glad to have been racing here. And I appreciated that. And the fact that Austin dropped that John Force was going to step out of the seat in 2019 and give Austin his funny car. Which would be crazy, because then flash forward to today, if that had happened, Jack Beckman wouldn't be in a funny car. He'd still be fixing elevators. Which again is fine to go fix elevators, but like, we like Jack Beckman in a race car. So, and just the way that they pieced the stories together, the music that they had playing, the graphics that they had showing, the pictures, the videos, it all blend together very well. It was cohesive, it was engaging. So I have the attention span of a squirrel. I will scroll through Instagram, I will play video games on my phone while I have TV on, so I can multitask and keep my brain doing something. Again, squirrel tendencies, okay? So, I didn't do that with either of these two first episodes that I've watched. Which is crazy. I always play on my phone when I'm watching TV. Except for this, I've been very engaged. And it's not even because it's drag racing. It's a good story. It's just so well done and well pieced together. So in this second episode, they had a lot of audio from Wally Park. I think Wally Parks had passed away when I was like barely a year old, so I never got to meet the man. But I grew up learning that this was the guy that started the NHRA, and his vision for getting kids off the street and somewhere safe to go race and to throw on a good show. And what was the quote? I think it was, we're trying to do a professional sport in an amateur way, or an amateur sport in a professional way. That's what it was. And I think that still reigns true. I think we're definitely more professional now than we ever have been. But that amateurness of it still kind of comes out in like the vibe, the mood. It's still, we're still professional. The teams are still trying to win, and they're racing for big money, and they're racing for their sponsors and all of this stuff. But I think there's still an element of, this is pretty cool. We get to race cars for a living. How dope is this? And I don't think we should ever lose that. The second that we lose the spark of just how cool it is that we get to go to the racetrack and watch these cars do insane things, and these drivers do insane things, and I get to take pictures of it and report on it, and you get to sit in the stands and watch it, and these people get to work on the car, and these people get to drive it, and these people get to announce about it, and these people work behind the scenes and run everything, and these people work at the track and make sure it's all smoothly, and these people are the emergency services and help when things go wrong, and these people are the safety safari and keep everybody safe. And there's so many things that go into it that make it professional, but the attitude of how awesome is it that we get to do this, we can't lose that. Because the second we lose that, we're no longer going to be what Wally wanted, I think. I think that was the key, and I think that's what he was meaning there. Because just how cool it is. How cool is it that we get to go to the racetrack and enjoy loud cars for the fun of it? It's just the coolest thing in the world. I'll never get over it. I will never get over how freaking awesome it is to get to stand on the wall, to get to walk through the pits, to get to sit in the stands and see Brittany Force run a 343. Just bananas speeds that you would never think that we would ever hit, and ETs that you thought we would never hit. This is just such a cool sport. Okay, got lost there on a tangent. That's going to be funny to watch back. The second episode mostly focused on Blake Alexander and his wife Leah and their two kids, and Tony Stewart, Leah Pruett, and their son, and Don the Steak Prudhomme, and Big Daddy Don Garlitz. Okay? We got levels here. Okay? There's a lot happening here in this episode. So it starts with Blake Alexander, and he's fired up, mad, okay, and stressed. And there's some seatbelt malfunction as they're pulling up to the line, trying to qualify. And I think this was at Gainesville. And so they're, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's thrashing, trying to, find a wrench to be able to pull this thing and do, I don't know what they were all doing, but looked stressful. And showing kind of the behind the scenes of, what did he say? It was something along the lines of you come up and ask me these questions, I'm all mad and I just sound like a bastard. And I'll put the quote up here. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was good. It was funny. And gosh, my goodness. Okay, so I've always thought that Blake Alexander was a cool guy, and I never could quite get the vibe on him very much. I could never tell if he was I don't know how to say this nicely. I could never tell if he was stuck up or not. And now in watching some of the behind the scenes of this, I'm like, oh no, he's not stuck up. He's grinding hard to make sure that he can come back and keep racing. Because, there was many years where he was struggling to find sponsors and, would only be out a couple of races for the season, or would be out for months at a time and then have to get back in the car and okay, none of these parts, we haven't had any testing, we haven't had no shakedowns, no nothing, and here you go, do good for your sponsors. So that's a lot of stress to put on somebody. And so now with having this second team of Chad Green Motorsports started, obviously in this season will be better than last season, but just that first year of building this new car and this new team, building that together and just watching how stressful that was, that those first couple of races they showed from Gainesville to Vegas was the first Vegas race was what they showed in this episode. And so that was kind of interesting to see some of the jokes he was making with Austin Prock in the in the pits. Which I won't repeat it because my grandparents and my mommy watches this, but it was really funny. I chuckled. Who doesn't love a good 13-year-old boy level joke? Okay, who doesn't? So then it switched to Leah and Tony Stewart, and they were, going over. It was right after Leah had Dom, and so it was that first season, starting from Gainesville. So it's her kind of learning, okay, this is, we're living out of suitcases, we're packing, we're moving to different Airbnbs and hotels and all that jazz across the country with a baby, so it's that learning curve of, okay, how do I do all of the things that I want to do and still be as present of a mother as I possibly can be, which I feel like, I'm not a parent yet, so I have no idea how hard it is to balance all of that, but it's got to be difficult. I definitely think they did a good job showing how she was still at the track and still being a mom and taking care of everything. And then she was talking about how before she said, before I had kids, I thought, well, I won't let a kid slow me down. We'll just keep doing everything that we're doing. And she's like, and that's all fine and dandy until he doesn't sleep during the day and then he doesn't sleep at night, and now you didn't sleep at night and you still got to do everything the next day. So, and that makes my head spin. And then it showed Tony Stewart's first win and how, well, it showed his first finals lost because he went to the finals versus Clay Millican at the Winter Nationals in Pomona, and it showed that loss and him getting in the car afterwards and saying, I don't know what God is trying to teach me right now, but I'm trying to listen for it. And then the very next race, he gets his first win. I think at the track, at the same track that he got his first win in Top Alcohol Dragster in. And I think that's just such a special moment. One, you're doing it at the same track you got your first Top Alcohol win at. And I believe Vegas is also special because I think he's also won at the Roundy Round track there too. So that was really cool to see his defeat after the race of he said something along the lines of, we have more to be proud of this weekend than we do to be down about, but it doesn't take the sting off it. And then to be the very next race getting that first Wally, that first Top Fuel Wally, the joy that Leah had on the starting line, and just the heck yes, we did it. And seeing Tony's reaction in the interview, and just how emotional it all was, and how just excited he was, and almost relieved to have gotten that first one finally out of the way. I know everybody says getting the first one is the hardest, so that must have been just a big, like, okay, we got this checked off the list, we're good now, let's keep rolling. And yeah, I think he won his second one was at Vegas again later in the year, unless I'm crazy, I'm misremembering. But yeah, so that was really cool. And then, so then they tied Don Prudhomme in with, he was the one who introduced Leah and Tony to each other, and he walked Leah down the aisle at their wedding. I'm sure it was really special for them. And it was really, really cute to see some of their wedding pictures. But it's really interesting to see their mindsets. You know, they were here at the start of NHRA. So it's really interesting to hear their perspectives on it, and either how NHRA is currently going, or how it was going, you know, as they were coming up through it. Prudhomme said something along the lines of, Garlits didn't realize that he needed the NHRA more than the NHRA needed him. The one interview that it showed, and that I was like, oh my gosh, it showed the John Nichols and Don Prudhomme when John Nichols crashed in Top Fuel Dragster. I had never seen it before, but the dragster's going, so I don't have a front engine. So we'll just pretend that the engine's up here. Well, actually, we'll just flip it. Yeah, okay, so pretend that this is the roll cage back here. This whole part of the car, gone. Okay, this part of the car, engine's right here. Pretend this is the engine. That's rolling down the track. Okay, that's bananas. I'm sitting there watching it. I had to quickly Google if he lived or not. Like, scared me watching it however many years later. It was a bad wreck. And Prudhomme gets out of the car, and I'd seen the interview of Prudhomme saying, I think I quit. And you can see he's borderline having a panic attack. Like, he's just about at panic attack level of, oh my God, I almost watched somebody died. And I was right in the lane next to him, and I'm sure he was sitting there thinking, that could have been me. He could have come across and hit me. Is he alive or not right now? All of these terrifying questions that really nobody wants to ever face. But sometimes the situation's in your lap and you have to face it. So, like, he's, panicking, and I'd heard him say that before, and I'd watched The Snake and Mongoose. It's been many years since I've seen that movie, but and it's just watching that back to back, because I think I'd only seen the interview. I don't think I'd seen the crash video before. So watching the two together was like, oh my goodness gracious, you could hear how panicked he was. You could see how visibly stressed out he was. And, like, how hurt for his fellow racer he was. And I think that is another big key of this sport, is everybody's family. Everybody says, you put the helmet on, you strap in, and you're no longer friends with them, but you're still family. You still care about that person in the lane next to you. You might not want them to win, and that's a totally different thing, but you want them to be safe. You want them to get from A to B and be okay. Nobody is out there hoping for a crash. Everybody's out there hoping that everybody is going to get to go home safe. But when stuff does happen, oh my gosh, you see how everybody rallies. And so when I Googled it, it appears Nichols was back racing the very next weekend, which is bananas. So So Garlett's had the same similar crash. We're seeing the squirrel thought process here happen in real time. Okay, I'm going all over the dang place. So Garlett's, his innovation, flipping the engine in the cockpit around. Well, one, he lost, part of his foot from a very similar crash to Nichols, but his was on the starting line, and it split the car in half and took off part of his foot. And while he was in the hospital, he was out for, I think, 6 months. I think it was 6 months, and he came back. It was the next season when he came back. But he came back with a newly designed front engine or rear engine dragster, and that changed the game. And it changed everybody's mind on okay, well, one, this can be done, and two, this works better and it's safer. So when everybody else, made the move and switched, that progressed the sport, and then they started going faster. Everything exploded from there and changed from there. I think people were playing with nitro percentages more. I think that's when the hydrazine, that's what it's called. Brian Lowe's just did a whole series on that. And hold on. They also talked about Ron Capps. Completely forgot. They also talked about Ron Capps for a little bit, and his wreck against Blake Alexander. That's what it was. Okay, so it was Blake Alexander, and then they tied in, because he got qualified, or he won the round. It was his first round win of the year at, I think it was Pomona, and that's when Ron Capps blew up and hit the wall. And they kind of talked to him. They didn't touch on it a whole lot, and I wish they would touch on a little more of what that feels like when you know that your family and your friends are watching you, on TV and at the track, of, okay, I need to get out fast so that way in waves, so that way they can see that I am physically okay, I'm moving around. And, oh my gosh, and the fact that you're the team owner, so you know exactly how much that explosion just cost, So I wish they had gone into that a little bit more. Because I think that the dynamic of being the driver and the team owner is really interesting, and I hope that they go into that more with Antron and Ron, because I think that's a really interesting, and Tony Stewart too. I think those are really interesting pieces of drag racing. That you can be the team owner, and which is the same thing that, now it's going to be flipped, but Josh Hart is no longer his team owner anymore. He sold everything to Elite so that way he could go to John Force. So I just think that is going to be, I hope that they touch on that more, and I hope that they interview Josh Hart and have his story. Again, I don't know when they finished filming, so I don't know if they filmed Josh Hart, if it will have the JFR transition in it. I don't know, but I'm very excited to see what happens next in the series, and I really think they're doing a great job. So yeah. Oh, the puppy's breaking in. Come up here. Come up here. Oh, hello. Oh, this is my baby Ember. This is my little puppy dog. This is my baby girl. Just a little girl. You want to come in here and listen to Mama talk about drag racing? You want to listen to Mama talk about drag racing? She said, nope. You talk about this all the time. I'm out. So, basically, my whole thoughts is Chasing Speed is so far an amazing series. And I hope, VICE, if you hear me, NHRA, if you hear me, please make a second season of this. I want to keep following the Proc story, because there's more to that than what has been publicly said so far. And I want to know. I want to know all the dirty details. And, if there's still 4 more episodes left to come out. So I'm really curious of who else they're going to showcase in this series. Thank you everybody for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like, leave a comment, share it, tell all your friends about it, subscribe, all the things, okay? I love you all. Have a great day.